all I have to say after watching episode 1 of a new Winter 23 anime called Buddy Daddies is please give me more. I had very little expectations walking into this show. Hell, I didn't even know it existed until my What Will I Watch video, where I had a few people say, hey, where's Buddy Daddies? And I'm like, what the hell is a Buddy Daddy? But you have this show where you have these two partners who are roommates, they work together, and they're assassins, right? And this show, similar to Akiba Maid War, as the show is made by PA Works, who also did that show from the prior season, this show is bloody. Like, they don't shy away from what they do with those guns, and holy hell, the mixture of wholesome meets funny meets bloody with this beautiful, colorful aesthetic has really delivered a show that has me craving its next episode more than any new show that I've watched so far this season. This show, the idea of having this womanizer MC who goes from fling to fling, who at one point, this episode confirms, had an emotional real connection but separated himself from his pregnant girl because, as he tells our other main character Ray in this episode, you can't keep a cat, you can't have an emotional connection because in our line of work, we won't know if we'll come back, and in return, you're just gonna break someone's heart. So from his point of view, it's better to never know that person than to be there for a moment and potentially never come home. Not necessarily I agree with his thought process, but you can see the idea. So instead of having an emotional real connection, instead, he decides to go from fling to fill the void of not having a family. And then here comes this little girl who I was humming and hawing. Is this actually going to be his kid? Is this going to be a random person? Honestly, by the end of this episode, I was kind of under the impression that she was actually going to be the daughter of maybe someone they kill in this mission, and he comes up with a lie to save her from knowing the truth. Instead, they end in the most comedy fashion possible, where early into this episode, we have Ray, who's this very emotionless, emo-like character, but seriously seems like wants to care for things, but just doesn't have the emotional maturity to express it in a positive way. Loses his cat because he says, well, we can't have a cat because we'll probably die on one of our missions, and the cat will then obviously have no one to take care of it, so it's better to give it to someone who can. And then here comes this man coming home with a kid, and he's like, so I can't have a cat, but you can have a kid. And I'm like, that is one of the funniest lines I think I've heard in the past couple of anime seasons, because it's exactly what I think every viewer was thinking before it immediately gets dropped. And then he opens up an envelope because this girl's like, I'm trying to find my papa, I'm trying to find my daddy. And then we see a picture of the mom and the kid, and we see a picture with him and the mom the morning after. And I'm like, okay, this show has hook, line, and sinkered me. And I think one of the biggest praises I can give this, because I've seen general ideas like these done before in other mediums. Anime, not so much. But the thing that really helped elevate this show is its lack of convenience, or its lack of characters acting stupid for plot convenience. There are so many moments in this episode, like initially when they're trying to get up to like the top floor where this party's happening and they're gonna go shoot some fools. He ends up making a cake and saying, hey, the wife, because they know the wife likes extravagant gifts and surprises, basically, she's the one who ordered it. The two guards, instead of just being like, oh, that makes sense, and oh, I don't want to make her mad, instead they're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. So then he throws them a phone to say, call her and verify, and they have this whole thing set up that it makes it sound like the wife, and then they freak out because, oh shit, well, we don't want to accidentally do that. Or another moment that avoids the convenient trope of just something happening for the sake of it. There's a moment where she's trying to rush in towards the elevator. Usually what happens is the kid would sneak under the cart, like, because there's a tablecloth covering it, right? And then in return she'd pop out and some chaos would ensue. Instead, no, she just sprints into the elevator before it closes, because anyone should be able to see a kid running and getting under there. But instead, they just avoid the convenient trap. And these little moments, they happen so often in other mediums, where shit just happens conveniently or characters do things that don't make sense. And instead, Buddy Daddy's like, no, we're gonna explain, like, dumb shit just shouldn't happen in this show, and instead we're gonna write it in a way that's more fun to follow. And that's exactly what the show is. It's fun to follow. And this is now 2 seasons in a row that PA Works said, we're not just gonna have characters with guns shoot around characters and we're gonna make it a little, ooh, did they actually go that violent? There are shots where characters are dead in the face and just, you hear the sound and they fall back. Maybe it doesn't show that much gore, but you can't deny the fact that this is a pretty brutal show. And coming off of like last season where we had shows that were brutal, like Akiba Maid War, or shows that were wholesome and that family dynamic like Spy Family, to have a show like Buddy Daddies, which is like a buddy cop, right? And I think that's kind of where the name comes from, because obviously both are going to help raise this kid because they live together, they're partners. But most importantly, buddy cops are known for their like ridiculous ideas of how two buddy cops end up doing something. So to have two buddy daddies, I think it's really nice. I know there was a whole there was debate about which are they going to go romance, this or that. Probably not. I mean, everything we can see about these main characters, it doesn't seem like they're going in a direction where they're going to be romantically interested. But even if it did, it's not going to change anything. The show is good as it stands, and I'm pretty confident in the writing that the show is going to be good the entire way through, if not excellent. And honestly, this one was fun. Yes, the anime season just kind of kicked off. A lot of stuff doesn't kick off until the weekend and into the next week. But this show, easily out of the new stuff I watch, has hooked me in the most so far, and I am dying to see more. I'm hoping this one's going to be similar to Akiba Maid War, where there's going to be a dedicated fan base, because I would love to talk about this one each week. But if not, it's going to be an exclusive live reaction on Patreon, because I do have a full live reaction to this episode on Patreon. But here's the thing, if the views don't match what I wanted on this, it will become an exclusive over there. As it stands, we're going to do both review and reaction, so just saying, if you do want to see more of this, I do want to see that analytics, those likes, those comments. I don't like extra harping on it in the middle of a video, but I'm just letting everyone know so you're not shocked if it does disappear. If this shit does underperform, it's going to stay over on Patreon. But I really hope I can talk about this one weekly because it has a good production. I mean, the first 2 minutes of this episode, minute and a half, give or take, they do a crazy mission where the dude comes in on a motorcycle, drops his backpack, it becomes like spike strips. I thought it was going to be a bomb, which is another thing, like it's a pretty predictable thing. Instead, nope. Flips the cars, like punching in windows, guns are being drawn, and I'm like, what are we looking at? And then in the middle of interrogating Kingpin from Spider-Man, these daddies are just like, they're talking about the sick kid, and then they just casually kill the guy as they leave to go pick up the girl because she's not feeling well. And I'm like, what are we watching, but I need more. I mean, not to mention the OST was just an absolute banger. We only got really a big taste of it during the action scenes, but man, there is a vibe, there is a charm. It's colorful both on the music and the visuals, but it's also a bloody mess in terms of like characters literally killing other characters. So it's like a nice way of not going edgy but keeping it violent, but having a colorful family atmosphere with it. And I think this one's gonna honestly surprise a lot of people, or at least I hope. I think it's just a brilliant direction to have something where you have a main character who wants a family and a life that is emotional, but is scared to have that connection because in return he might not come home and break their hearts, so he'd rather break their hearts before they're too connected to him. Then you have another man who clearly is trying to have those connections like stray cats and other things, but has no way to really express it. So by having the absolute negative and the absolute positive, and then a child to just kind of bring them into a middle ground, it's going to be really fun to see their characters evolve over time, and I'm very excited for more, but I'll pass the torch over to everyone. What did you think of Buddy Daddies Episode 1? You gonna keep on this one like myself? Do let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction and future live reactions will be available on the Patreon for this show, so do consider supporting if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.